The term fabric of care is something that many people experience, but not something many people think about. A thread alone can only support so much, but when several threads are tightly woven together, that is when your fabric gains strength and effectiveness. We are lucky to have Dr. Thomas Lane, Vice President of Student Life, come onto the podcast and share with us how KSU has built and is continuing to build a fabric of care for students at Kansas State University. We learn about where Dr. Lane's passion for well-being comes from, how KSU as a community is taking care of our students, and we even learned some of his favorite foods, music, and hobbies. We'd like to thank you for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Fabric of Care.
Waiting for the coffee to kick in.
I know. Yeah, so we are recording now. It is 8 a.m., and so I guess my question for the people around town, Dr. Lane, we'll start with you. Are you a morning person? Do you like mornings?
I don't mind mornings.
Okay.
I wake up fairly early. So, on average, typically wake up each day around 6:30.
6:30,
Yeah.
okay. How about yourself, Reagan? Are you?
No, I'm such a night owl, but I do try to wake up kind of early so I can get my day started, but I'd rather stay up late at night than get up early.
All right, we got Cole. What do you think? Are you a morning person?
I don't know. I think I am just not good at sleeping. So that makes mornings and nights really difficult.
So I'm a total night owl as well. I do not enjoy waking up, but then once I do get up and get going, it's not awful. I feel like I'm approachable. But on my birthday, my wife and kids asked, "Do you want breakfast in bed?" I said, "I'd rather get to sleep till 9 o'clock in the morning than breakfast in bed." And so, but then I'm up at 7:30 like I am every morning. So anyway, I'd like to welcome everybody to our first podcast, Thrive at K-State. And this podcast is being led by our mental health outreach group. That's 100% led by students, the Thrive Navigators. And we have a couple of them in the room. We'll have them introduce themselves. But I am Chris Bowman, the advisor for the Thrive Navigators. And I'll have the rest of the people at the table introduce themselves.
I'm Reagan Bond. I'm a Thrive Navigator, and I'm a sophomore studying psychology and criminology.
My name is Cole Griffin, and I'm a social work student studying under Chris in the health promotion office.
All right. And we also have one other navigator. Evelyn Garcia is in the room as well. She's kind of checking out how to run the equipment. This is our first podcast we've ever done as Thrive Navigators, and me personally, the first one that I've ever tried to we've ever put together. But we are very lucky to have our first guest, Dr. Thomas Lane, Vice President of Student Life, to come on and share with us a little bit about there's a lot about what is great at K-State. So welcome, Dr. Lane. We're so happy to have you.
It is great to be here. Great to see everyone this morning.
Yeah.
Morning people or not.
I know. That's what said. Everybody's awfully chipper. Maybe the coffee's kicking in for the morning person. But as I said, Dr. Lane, he is the Vice President of Student Life. And kind of to kick it off, Dr. Lane, can you maybe give us a little bit about what that role is as the Vice President of Student Life at Kansas State University?
Yeah. So I see my role really as focused on three things important to the student life is one, that ensuring that students know that they matter, ensuring that students know that they belong, and ensuring that they have a great K-State experience. And then I would add one additional thing is that they also experience a healthy sense of well-being. And so we have 18 departments in student life that focus on a number of those different areas that I just mentioned, ranging from how we build community on campus, to how we provide personal and career well-being resources, to how we provide supportive resources for students throughout their K-State journey, from when they first start on campus to all the way to graduation and as alums.
That's a lot, yeah, a lot on your plate. But I'll tell you, every time I see Dr. Lane, smile on your face, greet everybody warmly. And
I've got the best job on campus, I think.
And it is amazing how that the greeting everybody, having a smile on your face, what that can do to people's day. I know me personally, when I see somebody and they are upbeat, even maybe if they're not having the best day, if they're upbeat, that does a lot for my energy and gets me to be upbeat as well. So we really do appreciate it. And again, with everything you just laid out, thank you for carving out a little bit of time to come down and sit down with the navigators and talk about what makes K-State great.
Oh, this is my pleasure. Thank you for putting this together.
Yeah. And so kind of what I want to do is start out with a little bit of introduction for yourself. One question I like to ask a lot of people when I sit down with them or when I get to know them is, where do you call home? Where would you originally call home, or where are you from?
Sure. So I am from a town called Danville, Illinois. It is located in eastern central Illinois, right on the border of Illinois and Indiana.
Okay.
So if you know where the University of Illinois is located at in Urbana-Champaign, I'm about 30 miles east of the University of Illinois.
Okay. All right.
So I share the hometown with Dick Van Dyke.
Oh.
So that's our claim to fame. Also, Gene Hackman. Some people don't know who Gene Hackman is. They should. He was a great actor.
Hoosiers.
That's Hoosiers. He was Lex Luthor in the original Superman movies. French Connection. Great actor.
I've quickly learned when I've been talking with students since I've been here at K-State that people that I think sometimes should people that I know that I liked when I was maybe in college or that were famous when I was in college, they're not so famous anymore.
Oh,
so I bring people up and people kind of give me that look like, I don't know what you're talking about,
Chris. Welcome to my world. Anytime I've talked about a band lately with students, I talked about the band Pearl Jam the other day, and I had a group of students who had no idea who Pearl Jam was. That just blew my mind. See, Evelyn is shaking her head no, saying she has no idea who I'm talking about.
That hurts my heart a little bit. So I'm going to pull
I die a little bit when I see that.
The students in the room, Cole, Pearl Jam, are you aware of Pearl Jam?
I'm definitely aware of Pearl Jam, and it seems like one of those bands that, like, even though I don't listen to them, I know how much of the music that I listened to today was influenced by Pearl Jam.
Okay.
But it was a surprise to me that other students wouldn't know who Pearl Jam was.
Yeah, no, complete blank look.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like I was speaking a different language.
All right, Reagan, we're going to put you on the spot. Pearl Jam?
No, well, I'm also from the generation of One Direction. So,
1D.
Yeah, so no.
And who's
Pearl
your
Jam.
favorite 1D'er?
Oh, Liam, for sure.
Liam?
But not anymore. Now it's Harry.
Now
it's Harry, but was Liam then. But yeah.
It was about, I would say, 3 or 4 years ago, I was working at a job. And I was working with a group of like about 18 to 24-year-old individuals. And I brought up the band Led Zeppelin, which for me was, of course, I love music. Same thing, blank stares. So then I instantly polled the room and said, hey, how many people here know who Led Zeppelin is? Out of a room of about 200 people, 18 to 24, I think I maybe got 20 that raised their hand.
Wow.
And so,
that blows my mind.
I know, but you know what? Good music is good music. One Direction's good music. If it moves you and if it has a beat and it makes you feel good, I'm not going to judge anybody for any music they like.
There you go.
So anyway, small town, Illinois, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I guess small town, did you say the population? I can't remember.
30,000.
Okay. So that is massive in my book for Kansas, but, so relatively small town for some in Illinois. And so after high school, kind of want to get a little bit of your educational background. Where did you do your undergrad work at?
Illinois State University in Bloomington, Normal, Illinois.
Okay. Now
it's the only time I've ever been normal.
Are they the Cardinals? Is that the Illinois State?
They are the Redbirds.
Redbirds.
Yes,
Okay.
the Redbirds.
Okay. I imagine
Redbird is the mascot there.
I imagine there could be, if you keep calling it a Cardinal, that could be, people could get upset.
You might get a few askance looks.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what was your undergrad? What was your degree that you had your undergrad?
So my undergraduate degree, I started out as a marketing major for about maybe a month. And then ended up going into mass communications, radio and television, actually.
Oh, so this should feel right at home.
It's bringing back some memories of spending time in the editing bays at the radio station. Yeah,
that is, and I shouldn't even quote this, but I'm pretty sure K-State, our radio station, 91.9, we're one of the only student-run radio stations in the area, I believe.
Yeah, great program.
They are great. I love 91.9. That's who I usually listen to when I'm in my vehicle driving. But anyway, so mass communications, Illinois State, and then graduate work. How about when you went into graduate school?
So I did my master's degree at Illinois State, and my master's degree is in higher education and administration.
Okay.
And so I learned about that master's degree through my student involvement. I served as the president of our campus programming board. Okay. So similar to what UPC would be here. And that's why I ended up finding out about higher education as a potential career path. And I had a graduate assistant who recommended that I take a look at that program. Nobody grows up saying they want to be a higher education administrator. And so usually find out about it from other folks. And she was one that kind of pointed me in that direction and encouraged me. And glad she did. It's been a great 30 years.
Do you still keep in contact with that individual, or was there?
Yeah,
So
you bet. Yeah.
I guess the question is, are you giving her thanks or no? I'm just saying thanking her for it. No.
No, she knows how much one she means to me, and then also the conversations that we had were really pivotal at that time in my life.
Mhm.
Helped me kind of get on track career wise.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so then you completed your master's degree. What came next?
So I ended up working at Illinois State for about 3 years. And so my first job in working at a university was started up a visitor center on campus in their student union. So I worked in their student union, and it was the supervisor of visitor and information services. It was starting up an information center in the union and also overseeing the campus tour program. So every time I see our tour guides walking backwards on campus, I get memories of working with a great group of students who were really proud to show the university off.
So you've got the backwards walk down probably.
I do. I was able to do the backwards walk.
Well, someday, like I said, I hope we see Dr. Lane. You surprise somebody and give the tour, and we can see the skills come back.
Our tour guides do a much better job, I think, than I would do.
And I think they're housed in the Welcome Center, correct?
That's correct. Yeah,
We went
the
down.
County Welcome Center.
We went to the Welcome Center. I met a couple of their staff, and they were amazing.
Yeah.
They were a lot of fun to talk to. And again, it's because it's their job, but also the passion came through about Kansas State University and sharing what we were doing and what we have to offer students. And so they're fantastic.
Yeah, great ambassadors for the university.
Mm-hmm. And so after that, kind of what about the jobs that you've held? Like I said, you worked at Illinois State.
Worked there for 3 years.
For 3 years. Then what came next?
So then I worked at Minnesota State University Moorhead. Oftentimes in student affairs, if you are wanting to move up in a position, you oftentimes have to move to a different institution. And I happened to have supervisors that were pretty young, and so they weren't really moving anywhere quickly. And so I was interested in expanding my career and went to Minnesota State University Moorhead in Moorhead, Minnesota. And I lived across the river in Fargo, North Dakota.
Tropical Fargo.
Tropical Fargo. So I got a little taste of my old Fargo days a couple weeks ago when we were having our cold snap. It kind of felt like Fargo.
Do you recall, what was some of the coldest weather you had in Fargo?
Oh gosh, we had definitely double digits below zero for extended periods of time, 20 below for, a week at a time.
My goodness.
Snow would start typically have your first snowfall probably around mid to late October.
Mm-hmm.
And then the snow would not be gone from being around until like late May.
Holy.
Oftentimes, yeah.
So you get used to having the white landscape for quite a while.
Well, then you had winter, and then you had floods from the winter snows, and then you had mosquito season, and then winter again.
We love mosquito season.
Yeah,
3 wins.
I started to think mosquitoes was the state bird in Minnesota, but
I imagine
there's a lot of them.
They can probably get to the size of birds.
It
looks like.
They don't mess around.
Oh my goodness. So, okay. So Illinois State, then you were there. Sorry, you went to Minnesota State Moorhead.
Yeah. Worked in their student union for about 9 years.
9 years.
That was 9 years in Fargo.
All right. And so what next, I guess, is the topic of this part. What next?
Yeah. So after that, I became the assistant dean of students and director of the student union at was then Southwest Missouri State University, became Missouri State University as soon as I came on. I had nothing to do with that name change. It just happened. And so I worked at Missouri State University in Springfield, Missouri, and I thought I'd be at Missouri State probably about 5 years, and it ended up being 14 years that I was there at Missouri State and doing a number of different jobs, from starting out as assistant dean of students and director of the union to assistant vice president for student affairs, and then associate vice president for student affairs and dean of students at the university. And then that's when I found out about the K-State opening.
All right. Now we get into I don't want to say the other stuff was not good stuff, but the good stuff about what's going on now, which is K-State University.
Well, it was good, but now it's great.
Exactly. Yeah. There you go. I like that. I like the way you put that. So you came to Kansas State University. How long have you been at K-State?
So just a little over a year and a half. I started in July of 2019.
Okay. What was your first impression of K-State? I guess, whether before you got to campus, when you got on campus?
Yeah. So actually, I had been to K-State prior to when I visited here as a job candidate. And that was several years ago when I was actually working at Missouri State University as their director of the student union. There was a conference here sponsored by an organization that I was very involved with called the Association of College Unions International. And so Kansas State held a regional conference at the student union. And that was my first visit to Manhattan. And I would say that was probably in the probably late 90s would be my guess.
Okay.
And had a great visit, loved the campus, just thought the campus was beautiful. Just, that traditional limestone look that was just, it's just inspiring. Anderson Hall, driving up and seeing Anderson Hall and then of course the Union was a beautiful facility. Just had a great conference experience. So that was really my first K-State memory.
I know when I've been out and about and people ask, because I was born and raised, I've never lived outside of Kansas. Sometimes they say I've never left Kansas. Some people think I've never left the borders and they get concerned for me. But no, I've born and raised, lived in Kansas my entire life. And we tell people you work in Kansas, they instantly think, they're from other parts of the nation. They instantly think flatland, nothing, they think of very, very Western Kansas, but we're right here in the Kaw Valley. There's hills. We got the Flint Hills right here. It's really beautiful. And we try to paint that for people, and they have a hard time sometimes when they hear Kansas, some of the people I know across the nation, but it's a beautiful campus. Like I said, the limestone, the architect, it's really, really pretty.
The Flint Hills is a beautiful part of the country.
It is.
I love telling friends about where I live because you're right. I think the stereotypical thought about Kansas is this, flat, dusty, and it's just so not the case.
Yep, no.
And especially in the area of Kansas that we have the privilege of residing in. The Flint Hills is just a beautiful, beautiful part of the country.
It is. So first impression, but then also I'm going to ask you, like from your standpoint, what is something that makes K-State a special place to work and to study? I know that's a really broad question, but in your mind, what are some things that make K-State just a special place to work and to study for students?
I think there's a really strong ethic of care at K-State, and that runs from student to student, from faculty and staff to students, administrator to students, colleague to colleague, and then especially alumni to university. We have such a passionate group of alumni. When we were able to do more traveling, there would often times where I'd be in an airport and I'd have my K-State shirt on or my K-State jacket on. 9 times out of 10, I would have an alum come up to me and just, you could see, I always knew it when they were approaching me. I always knew it was going to happen because I could just see this smile on their face and this, just joy in their eyes when they saw, my Wildcat insignia or my K-State logo on my clothing. They come up and wanted to tell me about their K-State experience, and just great moments like that. And I'm looking forward to getting those moments back here as we move forward.
Yeah. When I came on at K-State, I've been here about a year and a half as well. And when I came on, one of the things that struck me with faculty and staff are K-State faculty staff. They want to find a way to help you or find a way to say yes. If you approach them and ask for help, they're going to do just about everybody I've encountered is going to do whatever they can to help you out with whatever you need.
Yeah.
If it's going to make K-State a better university or it's going to make the student experience better, they are willing to help out tremendously.
Every alumni group that I talk with, without fail, at the end of that conversation, it always ends, tell me what I can do to support our students on campus. Without fail. Happens every time.
The other part that really struck me too, when after beyond the faculty and staff, the students, the student groups that we've worked with, going into residence halls and talking to students, that was pre-pandemic, and even during Zoom, during the pandemic, their passion for K-State as well, and their drive. That's something that's really, really, it makes me feel good to see their motivation, their drive to do great things, not only while they're at K-State, but it makes you feel good when you see students that are working so hard to know that they're going to go out, they're going to represent K-State as alumni. They're going to be the ones that'll be approaching K-Staters at airports or wherever, asking what they can do to help. So the students' motivation and the student groups that we've worked with, I've been amazed by that.
Well, that's one of the things that excites me about the Thrive Navigators program. It's peers helping peers, and that message and connection resonates in such a different way than it would be for a staff speaking to a peer or a faculty member speaking to a peer. All those are really important types of communication, but that peer-to-peer communication there's really something unique and special about that. So
it is, and I think I think that the student talking or the peer-to-peer is something that has been great with the Thrive Navigators getting up off the ground. When people ask about the Thrive Navigators, I can go on for probably 45 minutes to an hour. But I think the best way that I describe them they are high quality students, high quality people that care about people. And they want to help take care of people. And I think that's what we need, especially when we're doing a mental health outreach group. They're just phenomenal students. They're so fun. We got two of them in here. I get goosebumps when I talk about them just because
you just gave me goosebumps right now.
I know they're great. And they said, they're so forward leaning and they're taking on I don't even want to call it a service, but they are advancing a message that not only needs to be advanced at K-State, but nationwide. Yeah. Especially coming out of the pandemic, especially if we look back at what we've went through with the pandemic. I think it was 1 month or 1 year.
Almost a year, exactly.
Yep. Yeah. And so they are leading the charge when it comes to that peer-to-peer education, awareness, destigmatization with mental health. And they're fun. They've been great. So that's I can't promise that's not going to be my only plug for the Thrive Navigators because I can do it all the time.
Plug away.
I know. So along the same lines, what is something, if you think, that surprised you about Kansas State University?
Well, first is the beauty of the place, because I did have stereotypical ideas about Kansas in terms of what the geography was like. And so I was quickly disabused of that and realized how fortunate and lucky I was to be in such a beautiful part of the country. I think the other things that surprised me about K-State is even though we, I think we're a big school, right? We're a tier 1, R1 university that, because of that ethic of care that occurs with folks, it shrinks down how the school feels, I think, so that you're able to connect with one another in a much more seamless way than if what you would think of as being at a large institution. And so I think that's one of the things that's really unique and special about K-State is we've managed to take this large university and by focusing on the interpersonal care that we have for each other, really shrink that experience down.
That's post-pandemic. Hopefully when we move to it, get students back on campus. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Looking forward to.
There's no doubt it's been challenging in this environment, right?
Yeah. The buzz on campus when students are coming in, especially into our office, and then you go out on campus and you see them, in the quad or at the union. It gives a whole nother feel and it's so great.
It's so funny you say that, Chris. I was driving home from work last night, and there were a number of students that were on the Anderson lawn. They were doing some sort of surveying activity that I saw, and it had been a while since I had seen a large group of students on the quad, and I kind of got choked up a little bit because it was just recognizing how much I crave that vibrant campus life experience, right?
Yep. And I hope at some point in time, once we do get a little bit back to, I call them normal operating procedures, but I really hope a lot of people will sit down, and I know myself, I call it an after action report. Sit down and think about the pandemic, think about the year, and not only focus on the challenges, but also the resiliency that came out. People have shown resiliency, faculty, staff, students, especially, of just kind of living in a world where there's some unknown, where things can change at a moment's notice. And truly, we have no control over that, And so I know it's easy to get kind of stuck down into the challenges that have been for the past year, but there's also been a lot of resiliency that has surfaced from this. Gosh. And we've learned so much from it.
No doubt about it. There's a type of Japanese pottery that is, and I can't recall the name of it right now, but it struck me as a really apt metaphor in that what you do with this pottery is they take broken pieces of pottery and put it together in a kind of a soldering with gold. And so you end up with these much more beautiful pieces of pottery than what you originally had. And I thought that was a great metaphor for resiliency in terms of, you go through challenges, you get some bumps and scrapes, but how you come out of that, and the strength that you show coming out of that, and the inner strength that you didn't even realize that you had.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been so many moments in this pandemic, not only for myself, but for students that I've had a chance to converse with, staff and faculty that I've had a chance to dialogue with. I think we've all had some sort of growth through this, what's been pretty traumatic times,
Yep.
right? Unprecedented. If I never use that word again, it'd be a great thing.
Yeah.
And so, we're coming out, I think, with a lot of lessons to learn. I think I think about the focus on well-being, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that we were having as much conversation about well-being as we have been having in this past year, and really taking the time to focus on, well, what does that mean, and how can I do better at that? That's really, I think, a silver lining through all of this, is how are we taking care of each other's, how are we taking care of ourselves and each other in ways that we hadn't thought about perhaps prior.
I love the analogy, and it's now I'm racking my brain because the Japanese pottery, our other student ambassador group, the Wellcat ambassadors, I believe came right before the pandemic. They did an activity in the quad where they had people build the vases build the pottery, and they had the glue. Megan Catt, the advisor, was telling me about it. I think she showed me pictures, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And now
It's a great metaphor.
it is. Now I'm just cannot. We'll do that in post-production. We'll just, figure out what it is, because that's going to drive me. Just can't figure it out. So, okay. Somebody I wish I could pronounce that. Golden joinery is what it means in Japanese, but I don't even want to try. But golden joinery is the correct translation of it. We'll see if Dr. Lane can take a
Kintsugi.
Kintsugi. Okay.
Yep.
I think I probably would have massacred. I wouldn't have said that right. So kintsugi.
Well, but now we're making the assumption that I'm right on that. I just said it convincingly.
That's half the battle I've found with some things, is if you say it convincingly, but anyway, well, I said that's some of my old, like I said, I worked on Army installation. After action is a term I use a lot, but I want people to sit down and kind of think about, not only what were challenges, but what went right. And I think we can all do that. So now we can move on a little bit to something I know, Dr. Lynch, you're passionate about. A lot of and you've mentioned it a couple times, but a lot of meetings that I've been in with you, some of the initiatives that you've gotten off the ground is concentrating on student well-being. Mm-hmm. And you've mentioned it a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I would say you have a passion for well-being for individuals. I mean, students, but for people. Mm-hmm. Where did that passion begin for well-being? If you could maybe try to trace some of that back.
Sure. I think certainly working 30 years with students, working in an environment of higher education, and just seeing how oftentimes when student success would go off track, mm-hmm. that oftentimes in those situations, it had something to do with an aspect of well-being. Mm-hmm. Not they weren't thriving in the ways that they could be thriving. Yeah. And so that's really what started, I think, my passion for mm-hmm. it. And then also, I think, just working as a dean of students, really working with students whose emotional well-being might have been a pretty significant struggle. Mm-hmm. Certainly working with the families of in those tragic experiences where I've lost students to mm-hmm. suicide, and working with the families. And that's certainly motivating and inspiring to want to be able to do more in terms of suicide prevention mm-hmm. and suicide awareness. And then also, I would say probably just personally, my own family has been impacted by suicide. Mm-hmm. And so, in fact, this ring on my finger that, of course, you can't see in a podcast, but I'm showing a ring on my finger that I wear every day. And this ring is actually my grandfather's ring. And I was very close to my grandfather. And about 6 years ago, my grandfather died by suicide, and really just had a tremendous impact mm-hmm. on our family, and for us still working through mm-hmm. Some of the trauma and grief associated with that. But I thought one of the great things that I could take away from the death of my grandfather was, how do I keep the message going about suicide prevention, suicide awareness. And that's been a motivating factor to me. And so when I think about, we have a successful suicide awareness program, or that we're able to have more conversations in an open and frank and caring manner about suicide, I feel like there's meaning added to my grandfather's passing. Yeah.
That's something too I've noticed, and it's been since I've been at K-State. There is a desire by everyone that I've encountered at K-State for more mental health awareness. And with that is suicide awareness, prevention, programming, topics, things of that nature. And it's a genuine want, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They want people to come out, and they want some information on it, and they want to know how they can help. That's one thing that has struck me with the Thrive Navigators. A lot of them have come out, and a lot of them have this passion for spreading. And it was some of them maybe had some lived experience with suicide within their family, or they have a friend that's had lived, they're living through that empathetic type of way. And so that's something that has been great. And that's something we've been really trying to capture on, is people's desire for us to come out. I know here at Lafine, we've been talking with a couple people from health and human sciences about how we get a suicide prevention campaign going for faculty and staff here. And we've had a lot of great input with them. And then again, I said that the desire that the Thrive Navigators have to go out to students, again, that peer-to-peer piece.
Really critical.
It is. And we've went out and we've done a few presentations about how to talk to people that are in distress, or that are having any kind of distress, maybe not even mental health distress. And the participants that we have, the people that are coming to take the training, are so engaged. It was, I don't want to say surprising, but inspiring, I guess is better. They were engaged. They want this information, and they want to know how to help people. I've always said that I hardly, in my whole line of work, 15 years working in mental health as a social worker, I don't know if I've ever met anybody that did not want to help other people.
Right.
What they need are the tools, the resources, and the ideas.
How to have the conversation.
Exactly.
How to feel comfortable in having the conversation.
Exactly. And to be a little bit okay with that, it's maybe not going to be the most comfortable conversation, but I look at it as a way for them to contribute as a community member for learning how to have those conversations. And so that is something that I think that is inspiring to me. And at the Navigator as well. Cole, he's an honorary Navigator, whether, we let him come in. No, he's a Navigator as well. But, and the desire for us to go out and deliver. And then the people's receptiveness of it, I think, has been amazing.
Well, when you think about, one of the barriers of seeking help when one's experiencing a mental health concern is this notion of stigma.
Yep.
And that's one of the things I think that about this current generation of college students is I think there's a much more willingness to have open dialogue and conversation about mental health concerns. And so with those conversations, I think stigma gets reduced, and therefore you have less barrier to seeking care. And I think that's really important. I don't know, Reagan, do you think that from conversations with your friends, you see conversations centered around mental health just as just kind of part of the conversation, part of the dialogue?
Yeah. So in my sorority, we actually have one of our exec members is risk management. And that's a really big thing that my sorority's been pushing a lot, is having those conversations.
Yeah.
And we have a wellness hour, I guess you could say. So girls can come into the Zoom now that we can't have much in person, but, and we talk about those things, and we try to help them and find resources for them. And we give them resources that are on campus and stuff like that. So I definitely think in our generation, it's become more of a less stigmatized and less of a thing that you can't talk about. So, yeah. So
thinking about my grandfather's generation, that was not the case.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of stigma associated with seeking mental help when you're, from that generation and other generations. But I'm starting to see a lot of progress there, which I think is that's great.
It is great. Like I said, anything we can do. And again, this is another Thrive Navigator brag, I guess. Hearing Reagan, the way that she talks, and when Reagan, talks, but you can hear the passion come through her voice, and that's exciting. That we're gonna have people that are gonna be out there doing that. So goosebumps again. But
one of the we just recently conducted the Healthy Mind Survey as part of our JED campus initiative, which I'm sure we'll probably talk about here in a little bit.
Yeah.
But one of the rays of sunshine that shone through to me in that data was that only 5% of respondents said that they would think less of someone for seeking mental health care. Which, now we got to get that 5% on board.
Yeah.
But that, when you think about that, out of all the responses, only 5%, that really, I think, kind of indicates the lessening of stigma, I think.
Yep. That is that generation, as you talked about.
Yep.
And it is motivating. I think you use that word too. It's motivating to see this generation of college students that are taking it on and taking it serious and want to be able to. Yep.
They get it.
Exactly. So kind of on the same thread, and we touched upon it, and I was excited to ask this question because this is a question we asked all of our Thrive navigators when they applied to be part of our student outreach group. And so I know you touched on it, but Dr. Lane, but I'm going to ask you again, what is your definition of well-being?
Yeah. So it's holistic.
Okay.
It's not just one aspect of well-being. So when I think about well-being, I think about first my physical well-being. How am I doing physically? Am I exercising? Am I taking care of my body? I think about my emotional well-being. I also think about my sense of purpose. So do I have goals? Am I achieving those goals? Am I making progress on them? Financial well-being is an important one, I think, especially for our college students that are making ends meet with pretty limited resources oftentimes. And so financial well-being is another aspect. Community well-being. Do I feel like I'm part of a community? Do I feel like I belong? Like I matter, as I talked about a little earlier. And then social well-being. Do I have positive relationships with others? Am I active? And all of those aspects, I think, make up one sense of well-being. And, I think that what's troubling is that in well-being research, especially with college students, the research indicates that only about 12% of college students are thriving in all aspects of those areas of well-being. And so that's, I think, an opportunity for us to really do some education, do some additional work to terms of moving the needle on how our students are experiencing a sense of flourishing, a sense of thriving, right?
Exactly.
That's why I love the name Thrive Navigators.
Yeah.
I'd like to take credit for the name, but it was a sole credit, I guess. It was a team effort between a lot of people at Lafine. I was looking through a list of possible student outreach group names just yesterday. I found it yesterday. I was looking at it. And I'm happy we picked Thrive because there were some on there that would not have been nearly as good. But anyway, what I love about what you said is the sense of community, the sense of belonging, because I think that's really, really important for anybody to have a sense of belonging. And one of the podcast guests that we're going to have on is an international student who the first time that he had stepped foot in Kansas was when he was going to start college at Kansas State University. And the reason we really wanted to have him on was when he came to K-State, he really became invested in getting to the campus, joining groups, going to the events they have where he can meet people. He started building his social network pretty quickly when he got here. Yeah. And he had a strong sense of belonging to the campus. And I know his journey isn't going to be the same as everybody else's, but it could give some people some starting points. And what's really interesting when we talk to him is when the pandemic did hit, which was 100% out of his control or anybody else's control, having that social connection or having that social network paid off huge dividends for him because he wasn't starting at zero. And he felt like he had people that he could connect with already. And so that sense of social connection, I think, and belong to the community is so valuable. And also, I think that's what we do very well at K-State. We build that sense of community.
I've described it as a fabric of care. How is our campus community creating and weaving together a fabric of care? And so, programs like Thrive Navigators is an important thread in strengthening that fabric of care. the student that you just described, it sounds like they were really fortunate to have a strong fabric of care underneath them to kind of lift them up through some really difficult times. And so that's when I think about our programs within student life, that's really the image that I have in my mind is hopefully each one of those are another thread in strengthening that fabric of care for our students and their success.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
It really just brings home that, a thread by itself is nothing but a thread together within that whole.
That synergy that happens when we're all working together on that.
And I think that's exciting about what, like I said, I think that goes back to what we said earlier what I said earlier in the podcast is people are working to help students, faculty and staff and students, people finding a way to say yes, people finding a way to help build that community and people finding a way to say, hey, if this is going to help students, what can we do to get on board? What can we do to help? And that's the exciting part. The partnerships are, it's fun to meet new people. It's fun to do new things. There's challenges with it, but once it starts working and it starts clicking, that's when you see, like I said, you can see some movement of the needle. And when it comes to advancing well-being for students,
most definitely.
It's fantastic. So, the current landscape of mental health across college campuses, is something that we're deeply interested in because we're a mental health outreach group. But what do you, like I said, in your experience, how do you feel about the landscape of mental health across college campuses? And then even if you want to get into K-State, what are your thoughts on where we're touched on a little bit, but where we're at with that landscape? Yeah,
we've been actually doing a lot of data gathering with regards to our own campus. Certainly nationally, college student mental health has been a pressing concern at college campuses nationwide, and definitely exacerbated by the last year of the pandemic that we've experienced. So we've done two recent major surveys for our college students at K-State. The first one being the NCHA, the National Collegiate Health Association survey that was done right before the pandemic hit. So it was last spring, but right before the pandemic came. So we had that snapshot in time. And then we also have the Healthy Mind survey, which we conducted in September of this past year. So it was right at when the pandemic was occurring. So we have kind of two snapshots of what our students were thinking and feeling about with regards to their mental health. And so a couple of things that I can share with you in terms of our K-State campus. From 2018 to 2020, so those were the two times that we did the NCHA survey, students reported a marked increase in every factor negatively impacting their academic performance. So such things as sleep deprivation, depression, anxiety, stress, all of those increased. So that's of concern. And remember, this was done before the pandemic. 1 out of 3 students reported having moderate or serious psychological distress. And then finally, 1 out of 5 students reported that they met the criteria for higher suicide risk. So all those are results that I think help inform the programming that we ought to be doing with regards to mental health, with regards to well-being. I think there's certainly we can do better, and I think we programs like this are going to help us do better. And then, so for the Healthy Mind survey, there was some additional data that came forth. 12% of students responding in our Healthy Mind survey shared that they had thought about suicide this past year. So remember, this is now we're in the middle of the pandemic when this survey went out. I talked about the 5% that said that they would not think less of anyone for seeking mental health care. That's really a great sign. Though I'll say to you also that there were also results in that survey that said even though they themselves would not think differently of someone, they said that they themselves seeking care, they'd be reluctant to do so. And so that's programs like Thrive, like our gatekeeper training programs that we're putting forth for our faculty and staff. The more we can try to reduce stigma, I think the better we'll have in moving the needle forward. And then here's one that I've really been, it's the one that kind of keeps me up at night a little bit. We had 39% of our students share that they experienced positive mental health. So, you have mental you have mental illness, but then you also have mental health, and those are two different continuums, right? And so we use to measure that. We use a scale called the Flourishing Scale, and it's about 8-item questionnaire that's part of the Healthy Mind Survey. And so, we had less than half of our students saying that they're experiencing positive mental health, so that that they are experiencing high quality relationships, that they're experiencing a high level of self-esteem, that they have a sense of purpose and optimism. So that's a number that I really would like for us to continue to talk about and focus on, not only just in terms of mental health concerns, but what does it feel like to be mentally healthy, right? To thrive.
Yep.
And to flourish. And so I want to engage the campus in conversations about that as well too, because you can have depression, you can have anxiety, stress, and you can also experience mental health as well too. And so how do we talk about that in ways that encourage students to engage in activities that help strengthen their sense of mental health?
I think I love what you said there with the fact, and that's something we've talked about Cole and I, the navigators, and it's a topic that comes up, the mental health. When you bring up mental health or even emotional well-being, I think a lot of people's minds automatically go to therapy and counseling.
Right.
That's when you bring it up. And there's a whole nother, there's a whole nother aspect to it that it's not just counseling and therapy. It's that well-being, it's that thriving, it's that flourishing, it's that stress management, that, of course, some people will need those resources when it comes to a counseling center or therapy. But there are other things we can do that when you say mental health, it doesn't automatically go to therapy or counseling.
Right.
And that's one thing with our bandana project training that the Thrive Navigators are doing, is we want to give people confidence, I guess, that when they approach somebody, we want to give them confidence that if they do need some professional services, that we can get them to them. But also we want them to be able to talk to somebody and have an empathetic ear, to actively listen to them and to validate their feelings. And I think that drives that social connection. I think that gives people the connection. They feel like they've been heard, and that can, boost their emotional well-being, not just in that moment, but it can have a carryover as well.
It can be life-changing.
It can, most definitely can. What I love is the research has shown. I push gratitudes a lot. I do a gratitudes journal. But one exercise that I really encourage people to do is to write a gratitude letter or to write a thank you letter to somebody. And then if you go take that and you can hand deliver it, but also I challenge people to read it to the person. And the research has shown that can boost your optimism for 30 days.
Yeah. Just
that one act, which is difficult in the time. But I know when I've done something that's been difficult and it boosts them, I instantly feel good when I've done that. And so that's something I push. Like it said, it's something that can carry on. There is that difference between, mental health that maybe needs services, and taking care of our emotional well-being and our mental health on that side as well.
There's a great book called The Happiness Hypothesis that I think mentions an exercise similar to what you just shared. And if you haven't had it, it's by Jonathan Haidt, and it's talking about what we're talking about in terms of just looking through history and trying to figure out how has happiness been defined. And I'd encourage folks to take a look at it. It's a great book.
It is, and I love. I'm really big on building optimism, and it was part of a resiliency training that I've done. And some of the colleges that I've put in, the ones that come to mind are, I think, Harvard and Yale. They have implemented some classes on how to be happy. That's and they've quickly found those are the most popular classes that they've had at some of those universities. And so again, I think that goes to, I think everybody wants to be happy, but I think if you say, hey, here's a way that we can build optimism, people are on board to do it. Yeah. People are going to try it,
Well, there's a meditation or mindfulness program called 10% Happier that's really helps convey meditation in a way that kind of takes out the new age, some of the stereotypical new age stereotypes that you think about when you think about meditation. And what the author says is that if you could do a practice that would just make you 10% happier, would you do it? And of course, they say, that'd be great. And so that I love that idea of when we think about mindfulness exercises and ways to take care of and practice mindfulness, that really what we're doing is engaging in practice that hopefully is increasing our happiness. Yep. And I love that idea of just 10% happier.
I know.
That's great.
Well, and what I love about some of it is that there are things that you can implement into your life that are not, there is a time commitment, but if you get into the habit or the routine of doing it, it doesn't disrupt your whole day. You know, I always tell people I do my 3 gratitudes every morning. I write them down and reflect on them. I think we did a training just last night with a student group, and it was on stress management. And what we had them do as our opening exercise was write down 3 gratitudes and why they happened and how they can have them happen again and who contributed to it.
Well, what you're doing is you're exercising that muscle,
exactly,
that gratitude muscle, right? It's just like working out. When you're working out, you're engaging your muscles on a consistent basis, and you see positive growth and benefit for that. It's the same way in terms of the exercise that you're doing each morning with your gratitude journal. You're strengthening that muscle so that it becomes more natural to use.
And we asked them after they did it. We said everybody was done, and we looked at our watch, and I think it was 4.5 minutes is what it took for them. Now it could take longer. Some people can get more in deep thought, but it took that group, I think of 12 students, I believe, about 4.5 minutes. And I said, so my point is, if you can start at 4.5 minutes a day every morning, it's a good habit to get into. And then that builds your optimism for the future. It makes it more optimistic. So, so we talked about the ACHA, the Healthy Mind Survey. What are some things that K-State, or what are we doing for addressing some of these, just addressing well-being for K-State students? What are some programs and initiatives that we have going that you think would be great to talk about?
Yeah, so a big initiative, I think, and one that many of the other ones that we'll talk about are really emanating from is our JED Campus initiative. And so about a year ago, we became a partner institution with the JED Foundation. And so the JED Foundation is a national foundation that focuses on helping campuses strengthen their approach to mental health concerns, to substance use and abuse concerns. And we were fortunate to be able to work with a campus advisor from their national office. We have about 30 K-State faculty, staff, and students that serve as our JED campus team. And we've worked with our campus advisor from the JED Foundation to really develop a holistic strategic plan to really think about over the next 4 years of this partnership with the JED Foundation. What is it that we want to accomplish? What do we want to do with regards to addressing mental health concerns on our campus? And so this past fall, we had a day-long meeting with our campus advisor. We had focus groups that occurred. And throughout that process, we came up as a team with about 79 action items on our strategic plan. One of which, of course, focuses on the programs that we offer to students and the peer programs like Thrive Navigators, like the podcast that we're engaged in right now. All of that's part of our JED Campus initiative to really help move the needle on strengthening that fabric of care for our students and for our faculty and staff as a campus community. And so really excited about that work with the JED team. Part of the JED team responsibility is really taking a look at the data that we're gathering about college student mental health. And so the 2 surveys that I talked about, really digging into those and thinking about how can those inform the programs that we offer. But then we also have a group looking at policies and procedures. What policies and procedures either encourage students to seek care or put up barriers. And so taking a really close look at those. And then the programs that we offer, as I mentioned. And so we have kind of subgroups within that larger JED team that's looking at each of those areas. And so by the end of our 4-year time with JED, hopefully the results on our Healthy Mind Survey, when we do it again, show that the work that we did, the initiatives that we put forward, and the programs that we put forward really had an impact. So it's really been a great, engaging work. The U at College program, U at KSU, just got launched last week, and that is a partnership that with Grit Media or Grit Digital. And what that is kind of a one-stop well-being resource platform that students, faculty, and staff can access to. It's individualized, so based upon what you put in terms of its questionnaire, it's going to put forth information that's specifically tailored to your interests. At the end of March, so we had a soft launch of you at KSU, and at the end of March, we're doing kind of our phase two of that launch, and that'll be our K State resources that will be in the program. So excited about that. We have, of course, a number of different fantastic programs that our counseling services have been doing on an ongoing basis throughout the pandemic.
Yeah.
They're doing, not only individual counseling, but they're offering some fantastic group sessions and workshops that focus on mindfulness practices or how to take better care of yourself during the pandemic, connecting with others.
Yep.
So just seeing lots of great programs emanate. Cat's Cupboard, for example, we talked about physical well-being, and if you don't have food, or you're experiencing food insecurity, that has an impact on your physical well-being, and it certainly permeates through other areas of your well-being. And so, Cat's Cupboard's been doing some fantastic work throughout the pandemic and helping ensure that our students and faculty and staff with food insecurity needs, that those needs are being met. So again, each of those are a thread in the fabric of care, and I'm really excited about the initiatives going forward and the continued conversation about how can we better meet the needs of our students.
Dr. DeDonder, the director of Cat's Cupboard, she is on our short list of
she'll
podcasts.
be great. Yeah.
We haven't told her that she's on the short list yet, so to be one of our guests. So, but that's the thing with Dr. DeDonder. She'll
be great.
She'll come down and she would do it in 20 minutes if we asked her to. She is great. And then I like what you mentioned with the counseling services that we have. You mentioned the groups that they have available. That is a resource for students that we really, really want to push out and make everybody aware, because they are, if they're paying the privilege, I believe it's at no cost to the students, and then it's unlimited. You can go to group therapy, or you can go to group. I don't know if it's group therapy. I don't want to put it in a classification that's not, but it's a group that can meet, and it's unlimited. And the counseling services staff, Dr. Lane, they
fantastic.
I think they have, this may be the wrong, I think 16 on staff that have specialties. Each of them have specialties, but then like we talked about, the holistic care, they are great at what they do. Just sitting down and talking to them. They really, like I said, it's that passion and that compassion that shines through.
And so it's important, I think, for every student to know that as part of their privilege fee, that they have 8 free sessions per semester at counseling services. And on average, most students will take about typically 4 or 5 sessions for counseling. It's a brief model of therapy. But if you need more extended care, the counseling services area is able to connect you with community resources. But those 8 sessions, I want to encourage students to remember that they have those. And if you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed or anxious, that's a great resource to be able to take advantage of.
And I'm so happy you mentioned, like I said, if you get into, like I said, it's kind of a short-term model when it comes to the counseling, but if it's something that may be more long-term, the counseling services are there. They're going to help out. They're going to connect you with those community resources. They're not just going to leave you, because it can be a confusing landscape to kind of navigate, finding mental health, finding resources. And they're there to help, and they are fantastic. They got some really, really great people on staff. So I think we're going to kind of move into, we covered a lot of well-being right there. I mean, we've got a lot of great things going on at K-State, a lot of really, really exciting initiatives, programs going on. And so now I think what we're going to kind of move into is, I call them rapid fire questions. I don't know. One of my coworkers, Sean Funk, she said we should call it pop quiz or something of that nature. So this might be able to change, but Dr. Lane, this is a chance. And
okay,
I think,
now my anxiety level.
and to turn that anxiety up a little bit, Reagan is going to be the one that's going to be asking you. So
Reagan with the rapid fire.
Exactly. Yeah. So Reagan with the rapid fire. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take over, Reagan.
Okay, cool. I also wrote down a few additional questions.
Oh my gosh.
So even more anxiety.
All right.
Okay, so we'll start off with the first one. Favorite music besides Pearl Jam?
Oh, well, Pearl Jam is not one of my favorite bands.
Okay.
So, but I appreciate them.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So my all-time favorite band, and I'm going to get a glazed look from everyone in the room here, I bet, is Guided by Voices.
Bob Pollard.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Guided by Voices.
Wow.
I'm hating her up, but now you don't run into many people that know
No,
Guided by
don't.
Voices. They are fantastic.
They are fantastic.
Yep. So you have another fellow fan in Guided by Voices here.
We'll geek out about that. We could take up another podcast on that topic.
We could do probably a 40-part podcast just on the number of albums.
Yeah.
That they put
So
out.
Guided by Voices and Robert Pollard, who's their kind of the lead behind Guided by Voices, really the brain behind it, has put over 100 albums. So yeah, it's pretty amazing.
The group that I play in around town, I play a little music, is we do a couple of Guided by Voices covers.
Really?
So we've worked them in.
So can I ask what songs you do?
There was Bulldog Skin, My Hunting Knife. I know.
My Valuable Hunting Knife.
Yep. And
Great.
so those are just a couple.
We are getting blank looks around us, Chris.
I know. That just shows again. But anyway, I know some people when they listen to this podcast that they're going to be really excited that somebody.
Here's the great thing about the world we live in right now, right? So when you hear about a band that you have no idea about, which happens to me often, you have Spotify, or you have, you can go on the air, you can hear a little snippet of something. And so we live in a blessed time where you can have that easy access to all the music that's out there. But Guided by Voices is my favorite.
All right. I guess I'll take that answer. Okay, then next is favorite restaurant national and Manhattan local.
Favorite restaurant nationally is probably the Commander's Palace in New Orleans. That's probably where I've had the best meal of my life at. It was really, really great.
Nice.
If you've never had turtle soup before.
No.
So I hadn't either.
Yeah.
It was delicious.
Can't say I have.
It was delicious. I'm just going to say, try it. If you ever get the chance, try it.
Yeah.
My favorite restaurant in Manhattan, that's a great question, Reagan. I'm going to have to say Taco Lucha on that. Yeah. And I love the peanut butter taco, and I didn't think I would.
Have not had that one.
So usually if I'm there on a Tuesday, I'll for sure have the peanut butter taco. Typically I'll have the black and blue. Or when the peanut butter taco is not being offered, but I like Taco Luchas quite a bit.
I always get the Jap Raz, which it has like raspberry sauce. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I want it right now.
Well, I also love the raspberry chipotle bean dip.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
And it's getting nice out. They have that beautiful patio, and so it's exciting.
Manhattan's really blessed, I think, with some great restaurants.
Oh,
they really are.
Yeah, it really help contributes to the specialness, I think, of what I think about when I think about Manhattan.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, then next we have favorite movie.
So my favorite movie, and I actually have a movie poster of this movie in my house on a wall. It's a movie that you probably will never have heard of. And the reason why it's my favorite movie is just so bizarre, and it has so many musicians that I like in it. And the movie is called Tommy, and it is a filmed version of The Who's rock opera called Tommy. So have you ever heard the song Pinball Wizard? No. Yep. Again, my heart breaking right now.
I think I might be structuring our next Thrive Navigator group meeting around
we need
classic music.
some rock and roll 101 to happen. So anyway, but have you heard of Tina Turner?
No.
Okay. How about I bet you've heard of this next person. Elton John?
Yes.
Okay, so Elton John is in the movie. Tina Turner's in the movie. Eric Clapton is in the movie.
I know who that is.
The Who, of course, and it's all Who music.
Okay.
And then, of course, my favorite actor is an actor by the name of Jack Nicholson. And he is also in the movie, and he actually sings in it. And he has the most horrible singing voice that you could ever imagine. But it makes the movie because it's just such a weird, bizarre movie. But that's my favorite one.
Nice. Hobbies that you have.
I would love to share with you that running is a hobby of mine, and I have ran marathons, but now it's feeling like a previous life.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to get back into running slowly but surely. I would say that's probably when I think about hobbies that help me kind of de-stress. Running is one of them, but I certainly have not been as active as I should be. And my waistline is starting to reflect that. So that's being a motivating factor to get the running shoes back on and get a little bit more motivated.
Well, there's great places to run around Manhattan.
Yeah.
I see people running all the time. I'm not a runner myself, but just not into that whole thing. But
this is a great exercise in perspective.
Yeah.
Somebody's hobby is more like my chore or
yeah, for real.
And then listening to
Yeah.
music is another hobby. I love, as you can probably tell, I love music, and
Yeah.
so you can find me at Sisters of Sound on Saturdays, kind of thumbing through the LPs.
That was my next question. Interrupt yet again, because now music, I'm just my ear. If you're a vinyl collection, if you have a vinyl collection,
I do have a vinyl
collection as well. So again, another podcast for another time.
And here's what frustrates me about the vinyl collection is I probably have bought these albums now twice or three times, because when I was in college, I had a big record collection, but then CDs came out and we thought, well, I'm not going to need these albums anymore. And so I sold them. I could kick myself for doing that. So now I've just bought them all over again.
Yeah.
I just I inherited my father's album collection, who was a big like country fan, and so all Loretta Lynn, a lot of the Johnny Cash,
so
and things
some
of that
Glenn
nature.
Campbell and Waylon Jennings.
Yep,
in there.
but I think about Dad, and I think, I don't know what he did, but when he finished an album, I don't know if he just threw it across the corner, because they are all really scratched up.
Beat up.
But my mom finally put some light on that and said that when her and my dad were dating, when they were engaged, they would go to dances whatever town they lived in. They lived in a couple places, but Dad would tote all of his vinyl records with him to give to the DJ. And I said,
how cool is that?
Did they like that? And Mom said, oh, they loved it, because he would bring. So anyway,
That's funny.
Yep.
These aren't too rapid fire. We've been sidetracking you, Reagan.
Yeah.
on this.
Yeah.
Well, my dad didn't collect records, but he collected coins. But I'm not even getting that. My sister is. So
Nice.
it's fine. But next question is favorite book or favorite book series. And there is a correct answer to this. So think very hard.
Well, my favorite book series is probably a series called Tales of the City. It's by
Incorrect.
So let me say, is it Harry Potter?
Yes.
Is that the correct one?
Yes.
I do like the Harry Potter series and have read them.
Awesome.
And have seen all the movies.
Yes.
Yep. In fact, that was kind of a holiday ritual with my mom and I when I would come back home, because they would show the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah,
at
that's what
Christmas
my
time.
mom and I did too. That's
so
funny.
It was great. And then it became the Lord of the Rings, I think, was when we moved to after Harry Potter had concluded. But but no, Tales from the City from Armistead Maupin is probably my favorite book series. And it looks at, it's a group of characters that are living in San Francisco starts out in the 70s and kind of moves through up until today. So,
playing off of the Harry Potter world, do you know your Hogwarts house?
I would love to say that, and here's the horrible thing. Like, I know the bad one. Slytherin. Yeah. And then there's Hufflepuff. And then there is Ravenclaw. But what's the one that Harry's... Gryffindor. Yeah. I would love to say that I would be sorted by the sorting hat.
I'm not getting those vibes now that you didn't even know the name of it.
See, these are rapid fire now.
Yeah.
Fail,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. Fail.
Exactly.
I'm a Gryffindor, so
See, that
kind of hurts my feelings.
But I would love to be sorted into
Yeah.
Gryffindor, but I suspect that probably is not going to happen.
I get Hufflepuff vibes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. What is the characteristic of Hufflepuff? Like, what's the
very
salient-
cheery. They're also like really close to Slytherin, so like that's kind of weird
That
too.
makes me a little nervous.
I think it's because they kind of had like a little angsty side, but like they're too nice to be like a Slytherin like mean.
So an angsty, nice person.
Yeah.
That actually doesn't sound too far off for me.
The guided by voices, angsty, nice.
Yeah,
people,
I think that actually you could be hitting a nerve there.
I'm pretty good at figuring out people's houses.
You're actually a sorting hat.
Yeah, it's kind of a special talent of mine. Next question is your biggest pet peeve.
Whiners.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Nope.
One of I have 4 questions that I wrote myself. So since you have been here a year, I guess I won't give you too hard of a time.
Okay.
But did you get to like observe any football games or go into?
Oh yeah.
Okay, great.
Oh yeah, those were. In fact, I had a chance to bring my dad to a football game.
Oh, cool.
And he had a great time.
Yeah,
it was great. Yeah, in fact, I even this past fall attended football games.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great experience.
So what was your favorite game that you went to, and who's your favorite player?
My favorite game that I went to was when we beat Oklahoma. And I was actually had a flight leaving that day. And I had to literally just drive like a mad person to the airport because I stayed far longer than what I thought I was going to be during that game.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I realized another blessing of living in Manhattan is that it didn't take me too long to get through the security line at the airport. And so I think that's another blessing that we have of living in Manhattan. But that was I would say that was probably my favorite team. And Knowles, I would say, is probably one of my favorite players.
Okay.
Malik.
Yeah. Good answer.
Yeah.
What's your favorite building on
But I think
campus?
they all do great.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, they're all great.
They're all great Wildcats.
Amazing.
And they all bring a lot of pride to our school.
Yeah.
We've got a couple athletes that are in the Navigators, and the work ethic that they have, I mean, and the dedication, it's inspiring.
Yeah. So what's what's your favorite building on campus?
That's a great question. I love Anderson Hall. I love the look of it. I think when people think about K-State, that's oftentimes the image, that kind of that archetypical image that's in their head. I love the Union because I worked in the Union for so many years and was a director of a union, and I know all of the possibilities of building community that occurs within a student union, and where all aspects of campus, from faculty, staff, and students, come together, and community members come together. So I'd say probably the Union is my favorite spot.
The only time I've ever been into Anderson is to get my Veteran Affairs money.
Okay.
Haven't really ventured over there too much.
Yeah. My office is located in Anderson.
Oh, okay,
122 Anderson Hall.
Yeah.
Awesome.
My door's always open.
So I see you have Radina's.
I do.
But is that your favorite coffee place?
Yeah, that's my favorite. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I didn't even go to the Union's Radina's this morning. I went to the one with the drive-through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I have a big truck, and it's really difficult to make it through that drive-through. Every time I go there, I think I'm going to destroy something. So that tells you how much I'm willing to risk it to get that cup of coffee.
And then the last question I had was, where has your favorite place you've traveled to been?
Italy.
Oh, cool.
Yep. Italy has been my favorite place, with Ireland being a close second behind it. But I loved Italy, and I would go back in a heartbeat. In fact, there's a show right now on CNN, Stanley Tucci's Italy, and he's going to different parts of Italy and looking at the food and the culture and the history. Yeah. And so I've been reliving my Italy trip through his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for answering the question.
That was great.
Yeah.
That wasn't too bad.
No.
I think we'll kind of said we have two last things, and then we'll wrap up. So I have a final question for you, Dr. Lane. And let's say you're in front of a group of people. What would you say to them to convince them to come and study and be part of the Kansas State University community?
This is a community that asks of you. And so it asks for you to be an active community, and it asks you to care about other Wildcats. And if that's a place that resonates with you, you'll thrive here. If that kind of expectation that we have of each other, that we're going to take care of each other, if that connects with you, then you'll thrive here. That's what I would say.
I don't know if anything else, but again, goosebumps again. I mean, that was a great answer to our final question. So the last thing I want to do with you, Dr. Lane, is you have an open mic right now, and I'm going to call it Dr. Lane's final word. Okay. Wrapping up after everything we've covered, from well-being and what makes K-State a special place. We're going to give you a chance to give the final word. Sure. To the podcast.
Wow.
Or this episode.
Pressure's on.
Yeah.
Words of wisdom. I think that we're in a really, really unique time. We're in a unique time to really think about and make meaning of what we've experienced over this past year. And I think that's a role that we have, all of us in higher education, as a community, as a K-State community, to really reflect upon what have we learned? What have we learned about ourselves? What have we learned about each other? And what lessons are we going to take forward so that we don't lose the insights that we've gained about ourselves, about well-being, about what it means to be a Wildcat. How do we carry those lessons forward? And that takes reflection, and that takes conversation. And so I would say that conversations like the ones we've just had over these, this last hour is an example of that, of really connecting with each other and finding those opportunities. That's the challenge I have for folks, is find those opportunities where you can engage in dialogue with one another and really think back and make meaning of what we've experienced. Because we've gone through just a tremendous time. It's been traumatic in many cases, but there's also been such tremendous examples of resiliency, of hope, of care. And I think that's important for us to really, really reflect on that and think about how does that inform our lives going forward.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So this is the last call for questions, or last call, anything to pepper Dr. Lane with. I know. We really want to appreciate.
I'm not sure what else there could be.
I know. We did cover a lot. But I do want to say thank you for taking time out to come and talk to us.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Our initial podcast guest at Thrive at K-State. We're excited to see where this goes. We have a great list of people we're going to have come on just to spread resources and things we have at K-State for students. I'm really, really excited about it.
Well, I want to thank you. Thank you all for the work that you're doing in this space. As you know, this is a passion area of mine. But you're really, the work that you're doing in Thrive Navigators is so important as we think about, again, that fabric of care. You're a really important thread in that fabric.
I think we might have just found the title for this podcast episode, Fabric of Care. I really like that. But anyway, thank you so much, Dr. Lane. I appreciate it. And we look forward to continuing the conversation.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much.